Hello, welcome to another episode of My Life in Objects. So off the back of the previous video I did about top trumps dinosaurs, I had a request from a friend of the channel to just go into a bit more detail about something I touched on in that video related to deep sea creatures. So I thought this would be a really good opportunity to talk about a particular course I did was 2009 as part of a certificate in contemporary science with the Open University. And I have in front of me the course materials for that particular course. At some point I'll probably go through the whole course because it's got some interesting units in, and the sort of context in which I started the course originally, because I hadn't set out to do a certificate in contemporary science. And this particular, as you can see, science short course is one of the 6 short courses that I did in order to obtain that certificate. There's a few other sort of pieces of material here that aren't here, but they're not really important, and quite a lot of the course happened online. It's also an interesting course for me. It's the last course that I did for the certificate, but it was also the last Open University course I did, because after that point I moved to Nova Scotia. So I moved to Nova Scotia in December of 2009, having literally just finished this course. I was actually studying for this course whilst I was over early in 2009 in Nova Scotia getting married. So I got married in June of 2009 and then went back to the UK for a period of time to wrap up my business, wrap up a few loose ends, hang out with my family, my parents, my brothers in the UK before I moved out to Nova Scotia. So I have fond memories of whilst I was over in the summer of 2009, hanging out in Nova Scotia for about, I think, 6 or 7 weeks, actually doing this course. And the course was completed online. You submitted the assignments online. It was like a final course assignment. And let me go through this stuff because it's pretty interesting. I'd done larger courses with the Open University, so the sort of materials I'm used to receiving were a lot more than this. But of course those courses which I did, well, the one where I've received the most amount of materials for would have been my postgrad courses, and they were considerably more expensive than these short courses. These short courses were very reasonable. I think they were about maybe under £100 at the time, somewhere around that figure. I'd also done some courses in web application development as well prior to doing this. That was in 2006, roundabout. I think from about 2004 to 2006 I did those courses, and they were slightly more expensive, and I suppose had about the same amount of physical materials because the study guide was actually an online study guide. It was PDFs. This was a really, represents well what sort of materials you got for the short courses. So you had a study guide along with some practice questions, and this one actually, after the practice assignment, has quite a large appendix, and that's because, as you probably saw, there's a DVD that goes with this, which I'll talk about, which is actually 3 DVDs, which is the most amount of that sort of material, video material I've ever received on the course. Prior to this course, I think the last time I received video material was on actual video cassettes as part of my postgrad in around about 96 to 98, and those were all on VHS cassettes, and there's quite a few of those in some of the courses. And it goes through and just summarises everything on the 3 DVDs. So I'm going to flip through the actual book. So in addition to the study guide, all of the 6 courses came with some form of course book. It could be something like this. I think I'm just trying to think now whether, yeah, they all are ones that were specifically published by the Open University. There was one exception, which was an additional book that formed part of, I think, a course I did on the universe, which was a book that I believe wasn't specifically an Open University book. So if you're ever familiar with Open University materials, they're course materials which are specific to them and aren't just a book that they've given you as part of the course materials, which could have been bought elsewhere. These have the same sort of structure to them, very well laid out, lots of diagrams, and if we go to the end of the chapter, you'll see lots of questions in here as well to try out. So I'm going to just go back to the contest, because there was a bit that I mentioned which was specifically covered on the course, and it's also my favourite thing as well, which was to do with deep sea creatures. There we go. The deep ocean. Now, from what I remember on the DVD, and this is basically extracts from the Blue Planet. I'm not sure if it's the whole of the Blue Planet or not. It might well be. And there were at least a couple of these which actually touched on deep sea creatures, and but from different angles, which is really interesting the second time they covered it. So you can see there's a specific piece on the deep ocean which I'll get to and spend a bit more time there. And I'll talk about the deep trouble as well, because that fascinated me actually when they did that particular episode. And I think that was, by the time I got to that part of the course, that's the one that I was watching and learning about when I was in Nova Scotia in the summer, because I studied this just before I came out to Nova Scotia. So yeah, it's all about seawater. This is a fantastic course. Sadly, I don't know if they do these, specifically this sort of short course anymore. And I don't know if they do this one, but I can thoroughly recommend this. And it's about what causes tides, tidal currents. Actually, I don't know if I should. I can't remember if my wife's ever flicked through this book. She'd be fascinated by this. She's really interested in the natural world, and particularly shorebirds, actually. So real in-depth information about the sort of life cycle of the ocean, stuff to do with plankton. There's lots on winds as well. And all these notes here. Now obviously, if I was to probably go through this a bit slower, you'll probably see that certain sections here do specifically reference the DVD, because the DVD and the course booklet are very closely interlinked. It's not the case that it's just purely sort of, enjoyment material. This forms a real strong basis to the study of the course. bits about fish design. Yeah, it's funny, I haven't watched this DVD for a while, and I'm not quite sure. It might be the case that this had episodes of the Blue Planet interspersed with material they'd specifically produced for the course. Yeah, I can't remember. It's probably, well, not since I did the course that I've actually watched the DVD. I think I rewatched some of the Blue Planet episodes, particularly the one on deep sea creatures. I will include links to any videos that I might happen to come across on YouTube related to deep sea creatures, because I know there's quite a few, but not everybody knows, some of them. So I will include links. Oh yeah, polar seas. That's always really fascinating. There's lots of stuff here about food webs. So you've got stuff on migrations. There's so many interesting rabbit holes you can go once you explore a chapter in this book. So this is the section on the deep sea. Obviously, since this course was published, there's been a whole ton of further discoveries. There's stuff on bioluminescence and buoyancy. I said I was going to slow down at this bit. So yeah, you can see here there's notes again on the deep sea. Oh yeah, some of this. So interesting, these particular critters that exist in a world quite different from everything else, in that there's these sort of like hydrothermal things going on. So yeah, interesting how their metabolism and this chemosynthesis as opposed to photosynthesis is driven. So using symbiotic bacteria. Yeah, that's really cool. Where you have these hydrothermal chimneys. Lovely photographs in here, actually. Now the other, I suppose, what's the word? The other part of the course where they touch on deep sea or deeper sea fish is in the area of overfishing. So, we're talking about, was it 2009? So yeah, overfishing, well, still is a thing, but yeah, then it was a real big thing. And there was some interesting an interesting section on the video where they were at one of the fish markets in London, and they were showing some of the fish that were currently being caught, because what was happening is, because of overfishing, these trawling nets were going deeper and deeper and picking up fish, and selling them at these fish markets, which a species of fish that they hadn't sold before. And there was obviously question marks over the fact that the ecology of that level of, within the seawater, that the depth of the seawater wasn't well understood, or not as well understood as it could be. So as a consequence, if they're now bringing up those creatures which previously had not been fished, how was that affecting all these ecosystems? A little bit in here about the collapse of the Canadian cod stocks. And we did touch on alternatives to, just so the alternatives that were touched on in terms of, sea fishing were things like sea farming, and also the sort of dangers with that as well. Yeah, aquaculture. It's all to do with, what happens when you're feeding farmed fish. Yeah, loads of really interesting stuff in here. And there's like the questions and comment bit at the end. So what I will do, I think, is I will include a link to the Open University. I'll see if they do still run this course, and if they do, I will include a link to it. It's a great course. The only downside that I see, and one of the reasons why I didn't continue with studies once I came to Canada, is it is possible to do Open University courses outside of the UK. There's some ones you can't do just because of some of the materials and just the sort of things they're about. Like I noticed there was a weather short course as part of the program you could do as a choice, and I noticed that wasn't available outside of Canada. I mean, it wasn't a problem for me because I did all of these, signed up for them before I moved over to Nova Scotia, but since then I haven't done any. Like I said, some is the case that some of the courses are harder to do overseas. Not impossible, but harder to do. Some can't be done at all. And in the case of all of them, they're more expensive. And in a lot of cases, considerably more expensive. Also, some of the courses now have slightly different formats to them. And like I said, I'm unsure about what form the science short courses take anymore. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed that quick flip through. Well, it wasn't that quick, just under 20 minutes. But I wanted to just give anybody that was interested a real good feel for what, the high quality materials that you get from the Open University were like. I don't know what they're like now. If anybody that does the Open University currently that watches these videos, let me know the sort of things you receive. Has it moved over more to online? Like I know, some of the courses I did, much more of the materials were going online compared to when I first started in the 90s. But it's always interesting to get people's feedback. The other thing I will say is that I'm sort of opening up the Sunday slot now, so I'm not going to necessarily release a Sunday video automatically. That slot will be filled when I do the Brian Eno videos, or if something takes my fancy. But equally, if there's anything in any of the videos I've ever done which I've touched on and you'd like me to do a bit of a deeper dive or a better explanation, then please let me know in the comments section of any video, and I'll consider doing that on a like in the Sunday slot when I have a vacant one. I'm trying to open up the weekend slots a bit more, and maybe I'm trying to go down to maybe 6 videos a week. I maybe go down to 5, and that'll probably be 3 Magic the Gathering videos and 2 others. But again, there's a good deal of flexibility there, and the idea is that by having open slots at the weekend, I can be a bit more reactive to people's requests in terms of stuff that they might like me to cover. So thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in the next video.